The pressure cooker at Ibrox is reaching boiling point, and right at the heart of it all is Andrew Kavanagh, a man faced with arguably the most defining decision of his tenure as chairman of Rangers Football Club. With fan unrest rising, performances under the microscope, and results far from convincing, every move he makes from this point forward will be scrutinized like never before. The recent 2-0 win over Hibernian may have given Russell Martin some short-term relief, but it did little to cool the wider tensions that have engulfed the club. In truth, this is a situation where one result isn't enough, not for the fans, and certainly not for those who see deeper cracks forming within the system. Saturday night at Ibrox was supposed to be just another cup tie, but for those who understand the temperature around the club, it was much more than that. The victory over Hibs secured a semi-final spot in the Premier Sports Cup, snapping a 5-game winless run and keeping a glimmer of silverware hope alive. Yet, even as the final whistle blew and players exchanged high fives on the pitch, the voices of discontent still echoed outside the stadium. Fans aren't just looking at results. They're questioning leadership, identity, and vision. And at the center of it all, Kavanagh must now decide whether to back his man in the dugout or listen to the growing chorus demanding change. The return of Nicholas Raskin has only added fuel to the debate. Dropped for recent clashes against Celtic and Hearts, his absence raised eyebrows across the fanbase. When he finally got his chance on Saturday, the Belgian midfielder wasted no time proving his worth. He opened the scoring with a clinical finish after James Tavernier's pinpoint delivery from a corner. But more than just a goal, it was a statement. Raskin's energy, composure, and presence in the midfield reminded everyone what had been missing. And for many, the question isn't just why he was benched, it's whether there's been a breakdown in trust between player and manager. That brings us to a bold idea floated in recent days: Raskin for captain. It's a move that would certainly shake things up and send a message to the dressing room and the supporters alike. Ollie McCoist, while not fully endorsing the switch, acknowledged that making Raskin the skipper would be a powerful signal. Currently, James Tavernier wears the armband, and his leadership has been a topic of debate in its own right. But for a fan base desperate for signs of change, promoting Raskin might represent more than a tactical tweak. It could symbolize a fresh start, a new tone, and perhaps a bit of fire that's been missing in recent displays. Of course, there's a risk in making such a drastic change mid-season. Switching captains isn't something done lightly, especially when tensions are already high. It could unsettle the squad or even create new divides. But McCoist's point stands. When the mood around a club is this volatile, sometimes it takes a bold step to win people back. And if Raskin continues to perform like he did on Saturday, the noise around giving him more responsibility will only grow louder. For Russell Martin, managing the football side while navigating a minefield of emotions is no easy task. He's well aware that winning games alone won't be enough to repair the fractured relationship between the team and its fans. The protests on Saturday made that abundantly clear. As the players prepared inside the dressing room, around 1,500 supporters gathered outside Edmiston Drive, chanting with fury and frustration. Cries of "Get out of our club," and "If you hate Russell Martin, clap your hands," rang out, piercing the pre-match calm. The chants weren't just directed at Martin. CEO James Stewart was also in the firing line, with both men blamed for overseeing the worst league start in nearly half a century. It's in this cauldron that Martin has to continue his work. But as he prepares the squad for a massive European test against Genk in the Europa League, the stakes are only rising. A win could buy more time, maybe even start to turn the tide. A defeat? That could be the final straw. And for Kavanagh, every result makes his decision that much more complicated. Does he stand by a manager who hasn't yet found consistency but is still fighting? Or does he pull the trigger and bring in a new face in a bid to save the season before it slips away completely? Let's not forget, the chairman himself is under scrutiny now. As journalist Keith Jackson pointed out, Kavanagh finds himself in a lose-lose situation. If he continues to back Martin and results don't improve, he risks becoming the symbol of stagnation, the man who ignored the fans. But if he caves to pressure and sacks the manager, he might be seen as weak. A chairman who reacts rather than leads, who folds under noise rather than staying the course. It's the kind of dilemma that defines legacies, and the timing couldn't be more critical. Kavanagh is expected to return to the United States later this week, and any decision, or lack thereof, made before his departure will speak volumes. The scenes outside Ibrox on Saturday weren't just about one bad performance or a single bad week. They were the culmination of frustration that's been building over months, even years. Supporters feel unheard. They see rivals progressing and lifting trophies while Rangers stumble through inconsistency, poor recruitment, and a lack of clarity. In this context, small improvements aren't enough. The club needs a reset, and right now, no one is quite sure who's going to lead it. Back on the pitch, though, the players delivered, at least for one night. Bojan Majowski, another recent signing under heavy scrutiny, finally opened his Rangers account with a well-taken goal that doubled the lead against Hibs. For him, it was a much-needed breakthrough after two tough outings where he was left isolated and short of service. Against Celtic, he barely got a touch. Against Hearts, his efforts were fruitless in a 2-0 collapse. But this time, he kept his focus, stayed patient, and made the most of his moment. That's the kind of mentality the club needs more of. Players who rise above the noise and get the job done when it matters most. Majowski spoke after the match with quiet determination. He knows the pressure that comes with the badge, and he's not hiding from it. He admitted the fans deserve better and that unity is the only way forward. But unity doesn't come from words, it comes from action. Performances like Saturday's are a start, but they'll mean little if they're not followed up with consistency and fight in the coming weeks. That's why the return of Raskin is so important. He brings a balance and aggression that's been sorely lacking. Whether paired with the likes of Theo Isgard or Mohamed Diomande, Raskin adds a spine to the midfield that Martin simply can't afford to ignore anymore. It's not just about form. It's about the message it sends when a player of his caliber is left out. Now that he's back, it's up to the manager to make sure he stays there. The bigger question, of course, remains unanswered. What happens next if Rangers stumble again? What if the European stage brings more disappointment? The fans are already restless. The players feel the weight. The manager is walking a tightrope. And Andrew Kavanagh, perched above it all, holds the power to change the narrative in an instant. As the dust settles on that hard-earned win over Hibs, the feeling among many fans is still far from optimistic. Yes, Rangers are into a semi-final, and yes, a clean sheet and a couple of goals can never be dismissed. But there's an unshakable sense that this was just a temporary patch on a much deeper wound. The real issues haven't gone away, and as long as performances continue to flatter to deceive, the pressure on Russell Martin and the boardroom will only intensify. The clock isn't ticking quietly anymore. It's thundering in the ears of every supporter who's watched their club slide into mediocrity while rivals pull ahead. Saturday may have brought some smiles, but the protest outside the stadium said more than any 90 minutes on the pitch ever could. It wasn't a flash of anger. It was years of frustration finally boiling over. Fans weren't just venting about a manager's tactics or a bad run of form. They were demanding more from the club they love, demanding leadership, vision, ambition, qualities they feel have been sorely missing. The chants against Martin weren't personal, they were symbolic. A reflection of a wider belief that the people in charge are out of touch with what Rangers should represent. Inside the dressing room, the players would have heard every word. That kind of noise doesn't just bounce off the walls, it sinks in. But to their credit, they didn't let it rattle them. Majowski's goal came not just from instinct, but from composure, a striker waiting patiently for his moment in a game where he knew he had to deliver. And then there's Raskin, cool, sharp, and ready from the first whistle. His reintroduction couldn't have come at a better time. If there's been tension between him and Martin, it needs to be buried now, for the good of the team and the season. Rangers can't afford to let pride or grudges dictate team selection. There's too much at stake. And that leads us to the upcoming Europa League fixture against Genk. It's not just another game. It's a crossroads. A win would bring belief back into the camp, something more tangible than just a cup run. It would show that this team, as flawed as it may seem, can compete under pressure and fight for something meaningful. But a loss, especially at home, could tip the entire situation over the edge. The fans are already restless, and a poor showing in Europe could make Ibrox an unforgiving place to be for both players and staff. It would turn murmurs into roars and pressure into an avalanche. For Martin, it's a brutal position to be in. Every match feels like a referendum on his future, and every lineup decision is second-guessed before a ball is even kicked. But he's not without tools. He's got a squad full of players who, on paper at least, should be more than capable of competing. The key now is getting them playing like a unit, getting Raskin settled and central, giving Majowski support up front, and finding a midfield balance that doesn't get overrun every time the tempo rises. That's not asking for miracles, it's asking for basics, and they've been missing for too long. In fairness, Martin isn't the only one feeling the weight of expectation. Kavanagh's silence so far has been deafening. The chairman can't stay in the shadows much longer. Whether he backs the manager or decides it's time for a new face, he has to show that he understands the seriousness of this moment. Doing nothing is not an option anymore. Every delay feels like another signal that there's no clear plan in place, and that's the last thing this club needs right now. Rangers fans are patient, but they're not blind. They see the standards slipping, and they want someone to stop the slide. But in football, things change fast. One performance, one run of games, one turning point, and the whole atmosphere can shift. That's the gamble Martin and Kavanagh are both riding right now. That this recent result can be the spark, not just a fluke. That players like Raskin and Majowski can lead a resurgence. That a cup semi-final appearance and a big European night can turn the jeers into cheers. But even if that happens, the underlying questions remain. Is there a long-term strategy? Is this just damage control? Or is there a genuine plan for rebuilding Rangers into a force again? The truth is, the problems at Ibrox won't be fixed by one man or one match. It's a collective effort, from the top down. The board needs to be aligned. The recruitment needs to improve, and the connection with the fans must be rebuilt from scratch. Too much of what made Rangers intimidating, resilient, and proud has eroded. Other clubs in Scotland are no longer scared to come to Ibrox. That aura has gone, and it needs to be earned back, not just assumed. This is why the Europa League game could be season-defining, not in terms of silverware, but in setting the tone. If Rangers come out swinging, with aggression and hunger, fans will respond. They always do. But if it's another flat, indecisive performance, then no cup progress will be enough to quiet the calls for change. Martin needs more than just a win. He needs a performance that proves he still has the dressing room, that his ideas still matter, and that this team is moving in the right direction. The return of Raskin should help massively. He offers a control and bite in midfield that's been missing. When he's on form, he's the kind of player who sets the tone for those around him. And when you add Diomand and Asgard into the mix, you start to see a spine that can compete, not just survive. But they need games together. They need consistency. And above all, they need trust from the manager to let them play with freedom and confidence. The time for chopping and changing has passed. Rangers need rhythm. For the fans, it's all about hope now. They want to believe again. They want to see signs that someone, somewhere, is taking control of this mess and steering it towards something better. The chants outside Ibrox weren't just about anger. They were a plea for leadership, for clarity, for a reason to believe that the club isn't just drifting. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. The whispers around Lennoxtown have grown louder in recent days, and though nothing has been confirmed, the talk carries the kind of weight that makes supporters sit up and take notice. Word is that Clinton Niala, once regarded as one of the more promising figures within the squad, has found himself pushed to the margins by Russell Martin. Sources close to the dressing room suggest the manager has all but ignored the midfielder in recent weeks, with communication reduced to the barest minimum. Those who've watched training behind closed doors claim the situation has turned from professional tension into something altogether more difficult to repair. Niala, a player who prides himself on intensity and discipline, is said to have grown increasingly frustrated by the silence from the gaffer. Teammates, meanwhile, are caught in the middle, recognizing both the manager's authority and Niala's growing sense of alienation. The whispers speak of a dressing room atmosphere that has shifted from uneasy to near unbearable. A handful of squad members have apparently tried to mediate, urging calm and patience, but the feeling among insiders is that the bridge may already be burned. As one figure put it quietly, it's hard to see how he pulls on the shirt again under Martin. The rumor mill has inevitably moved to the next chapter, Niala's exit. Some suggest his representatives have already been making discreet inquiries, testing the waters for a swift move away. While no club has yet been linked concretely, the sense is that the player is no longer willing to sit idle and wait for an opportunity that may never come. For the supporters, the story is yet another reminder of how fragile the bond can be between manager and player. Niala's potential departure would mark a swift and unexpected end to a chapter that once promised so much. For now, it remains the talk of pubs, forums, and terraces, a tale of silence, frustration, and the looming possibility of an immediate farewell. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.